The stories of Prince Andrew are not the story. You shouldn't confuse the two things. There's the stories of spies and foreign governments active in Britain. Of course they are. That's what they do. We do the same. And then there's the story of Prince Andrew, who is, on the one hand, an innocent caught in a mess. There was a word going through my head, which is quasivorous. Quasivorous. I can't even think where I got the word from. Quasivorous. If somebody knows what that word means, I do know actually. Quasivorous is tree eating, and I know why it's in my head. The other day, somebody wrote a comment in the comment section, in Russian oddly, suggesting that I was getting ready to eat the bark of trees, and I wrote back and I said, no, we're not tree eaters in Britain, we're tree huggers. And this person's bark is worse than his bite. But words pop in and out of the head, don't they? But Prince Andrew is the Duke of York, not a tree hugger, I think, is a man who's quasivorous. It's such a good word, isn't it? Quasivorous. Anyway, Prince Andrew, nothing quasiverical about him. I don't imagine he's going to go around the place devouring trees. But he's a man whose ability to remain at the centre of a scandal might well be described as some sort of gift. If arrogance were an Olympic sport, the Duke of York would likely take gold. And the latest revelations about his preferential treatment in obtaining a Bank of China account in 2008 have only deepened the absurdity of his long checkered career. Why would he want a bank account in China? A murky tale where arrogance meets espionage and royal entitlement takes an unsettling global turn. There's a leaked email put out by the Telegraph this morning, and Andrew boasts about being allowed to open a bank account in China, a rare privilege that circumvents standard procedures. And his glee is palpable as he writes, normally you have to present yourself in person, but they will make an exception for me. What an extraordinary stroke of luck for someone who, let's face it, hasn't had the most recent success in navigating either public life or financial prudence. But this is not merely a story of royal overreach, it's one of strategic naivety and dangerous associations. The account, based in China, could allegedly facilitate payments for business deals outside the scrutiny of UK officials and authorities. And this raises an obvious question. What sort of business deals were these, and why were they so desperate to evade prying eyes? And the plot thickens when we consider Andrew's close confidant, Yang Tengbo, known also as Chris Yang, who has been identified as this Chinese, allegedly as a Chinese spy. This charming individual was a co-founder of the Pitch at the Palace's Chinese arm, a venture established by Prince Andrew in 2006, and with the intention of building schools in China, which is surely a good thing. But the leaked email about the bank account dates back 8 years earlier, suggesting the Duke's dealings with China began long before Pitch at the Palace was even a twinkle in his entrepreneurial eye. It would be comic if it weren't so troubling. Yang's alleged ties to China's United Front Work Department, an arm of the Chinese Communist Party dedicated to influencing foreign nations, remains something that demands scrutiny. Yet it seems the UK intelligence services were asleep at the wheel. Sir Ian Duncan Smith pointedly remarked, China, Russia and Iran are always looking for ways into the political establishment. The security services don't seem to take an interest in what Prince Andrew was doing. The problem here is not China or Russia and Iran. The problem here is our own Prince Andrew, who is trying to dodge scrutiny. It's the only interpretation you can have. The oversight is extraordinary given the Duke's history of globe-trotting in his capacity as a trade envoy, a role he clearly enjoyed more for its perks than its responsibilities. And on one official trip to China in 2007, he attended a dinner hosted by the Bank of China. Mere months later, his BlackBerry chirped with a now infamous email announcing his banking privilege. Coincidence? Unlikely. And what of his dubious associates? The board of pitch at the palace's Chinese arm reads like a roll call for indiscretion. And among the people is a businessman arrested for bribery, another under investigation for financial misconduct, and the founder of a tech company sanctioned by the US for alleged involvement in human rights abuses against the Uyghurs. It's difficult to determine whether Andrew's selection process for board members was guided by sheer recklessness or a particularly poor horoscope. One associate, Liu Qingfeng, founded iFlyTech, a firm accused of collaborating with Chinese security officials to develop surveillance systems. Another board member, Zha Hua, conveniently won a pitch at the palace competition. Meanwhile, the Duke, undeterred by mounting controversy, ploughed ahead, shaking hands, cashing cheques like a royal Forrest Gump, oblivious but far from innocent, it seems. The implications of these revelations are profound. If payments were indeed funneled through Bank of China accounts, Andrew may have inadvertently or carelessly facilitated influence operations from a foreign power. But more than that, he was acting in a dodgy way. For a man already ostracized by the royal family following his association with Jeffrey Epstein, these latest scandals reinforce an uncomfortable truth. Andrew is a liability to the institution he was born to serve. That's the fact. The Duke's defenders might argue he's simply a misunderstood man with a penchant for network. But networking shouldn't entail becoming entangled with suspected spies or sanctioned entities or trying to make a buck on the side undercover. And it's that last thing which I think is the thing that we should focus on, not all this other stuff, because Yang, it doesn't matter what is speculated in the press. He hasn't been accused of anything. But what the Duke has done seems to me to be suspicious and deeply troubling. I don't think he should be allowed out again for the rest of his life. I think he should hide in Royal Lodge if that's where he wishes to live. But he certainly shouldn't be seen in public. And I think that decision has already been taken. The inevitable fallout, the calls for Andrew to disclose his financial dealings in full grow louder by the day, as they should. And the public deserves answers. The royal family deserves better. And the Duke of York, well, perhaps, he deserves this long, quiet retirement, preferably far away from boardrooms, banks, or BlackBerry devices. Prince Andrew's latest saga is not just a story of arrogance and absurdity. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of entitlement, the naivety of unchecked privilege, and the very real consequences of turning a blind eye to dubious dealings. I hope that this time the scrutiny brings not just answers, but accountability and action, or should I say inaction, because frankly, this is a time when Andrew needs to be switched off and put away and hidden from sight.